August 4th, 1951. The eyes of the motorsports world turn to the Pacific Northwest. Location, Seattle's Lake Washington. Event, Seafair Race number 1. Hydroplane's Gold Cup is the Super Bowl of boat racing.
I grew up on Lake Washington, just north of the floating bridge. The Seattle boats used to be pitted in Leschi. So the Slummos would be pitted in Leschi and come across. So I remember them at probably 3 years old, seeing the Slummos on Lake Washington.
Today, 60 years after virtually unknown Seattle instantly went big time, Seafair is celebrating a milestone of thunderboats and rooster tails.
Dad's dad was actually here at the very first Gold Cup when the Slummos brought it back out from Detroit. Our families have been involved, and I'm honored, as Kaylee is honored, to be racing at this race, especially on the 60th anniversary.
60 years of racing translates into hundreds of boats, thousands of fans, and a countless number of memories. Today, you will journey down Hydro's memory lane while keeping an eye on the present and future.
To have the opportunity to have this 60th race and be involved in it is an honor in and of itself. If I could win it, well, that'd just be icing on the cake.
So fire up the grill, invite the family, friends, and neighbors, then get ready. This is KIRO 7's exclusive presentation of the 60th annual hydroplane race in Seattle. It is Seafair time, and we're set to present the 2010 Albert Lea Cup.
This is the Budweiser Startup Show, brought to you by Budweiser, the great American lager, by Beacon Plumbing. Stop freaking, call Beacon at 1-800-FREAKIN.
Sunday morning on Lake Washington, but not just any morning. This is a Seafair Sunday morning. And just as they have for the past 60 years, fans will take to the shores and to the water to witness a spectacle unlike anywhere else in the world. Good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Russell.
And I'm Steve Rabel, welcoming you to the Budweiser Startup Show, high above the pits in that very tower right there. We will be with you here on KIRO 7 for at least 8 hours today if everything goes well.
Right.
If it doesn't, we could be here till 10 o'clock tonight. Who knows? We have a great broadcast team assembled for you, as always, to bring you the stories and the festivities. 60th anniversary of hydroplane racing here in Seattle. And there are lots of stories to talk about. We'll detail them throughout the day for you. But maybe the biggest one is, in 8 hours from now, who will be the champion of the Albert Lea Cup here at Seafair?
That's right. You know, on paper, it should come down to just two teams. But in reality, it could be based really on a war of words after what came out of the races in the Tri-Cities.
What's always fun about this day is nothing is ever done on paper. It's always settled out here on the water and sometimes in the pits as well. Well, let's check in with our resident analyst here, our Hall of Fame, our Motorsports Hall of Fame member and six-time Seafair champion, Chip Hanauer, who will be joining us all day here on the tower.
I'll be here.
Chip, you will be here.
I'll be here.
Thank goodness.
Let's start with what happened a couple of weeks ago in Tri-Cities. Dave Vilwaks, Steve David, no love lost.
No love lost, and actually Dave Vilwaks screwed up. He had the race won. He was the fastest qualifier. He had the fastest boat with 1 lap to go, with 1 corner to go. He made a miscalculation in what lane he was in. He came across Steve David in the Alberto boat, made him change lanes, although it didn't really interfere with Steve David. It's not legal. So he lost the race on the last corner of the last lap.
Right, well, that's what happened on the course, but in the interviews after the races, that's when more drama started. Take a listen to what both of them had to say.
He tried to kill me down in that far turn. I mean, he came in and there was no lane whatsoever, and I was either going to run him over or we were going to win this race.
There was another boat on the outside. There was another boat that was dead in the water there someplace I'm supposed to try to avoid, and the sun's over there because we ran this thing at 450, not 420.
Yeah, obviously he never makes mistakes. You know, I mean, at some point you got to realize, okay, you screwed up, and congratulate the winner.
Once I was able to sit down with my urologist and look at treatment.
Wow. So were they just blowing off a little steam, or do you think those were fighting words?
No, competition does this to relationships. You know, what happens is these guys 2 or 3 years ago, they were great friends. It was all fun and games. Well, it's all fun and games till somebody loses a boat race, right? And now, all of a sudden, these guys are at each other. There's a lot at stake here. There couldn't be two more different personalities, not only on the race course, but off the race course. They are entirely different kind of individuals.
I'll tell you, after covering this guy for so many years in the cockpit as he was a racer, there was no one more focused. And at times, people thought maybe that you had a little bit of an edge to you. And look how you've mellowed over
You
that.
with edge?
No, it's true. When I was racing, I took it so serious. I got so focused. Competition does this. And, you know, we can talk about Paul Becker and Kaylee Perkins. They were great buddies until last year, actually. And now, after the Seafair race, there's a little animosity there as well.
Well, let's talk about the team totals right now, because that's also going to be something we're going to look at, because that means so much into who continues racing to go to the Middle East, which is really the big carrot out there for all these teams, right?
And the reason it's a big carrot is it's a lot of money, because these boats make about $15,000 per race. But if they can be one of the 10 that go to Qatar, they will make $125,000. So if you look at the standings here, the boats there in the U-13, the U-25, and the U-57, they are desperate to be one of the 10 boats to go to Qatar to cash in on that $125,000.
All right, well, Chip's going to join us back here again in less than an hour. There are 14 races today, and he'll be here for all of the action. We can check in with Chris Francis, our sports director. I think so, yes. He's going to be at the pits all day, and one of the teams he's watching is the defending champion, the U-96 Spirit of Qatar. And I know we were talking with Chip earlier, there's been some debate over the pronunciation, whether it's Qatar or Qatar, but talking with Boeing officials, it is indeed Qatar, and I've always heard you say it that way, too.
Qatar is what us newsies, as you know, like to call it. But Chris is with the defending Chevy Cup champion from years past, and now he's hoping to be the champion of the Albert Lee Cup here at Seafair. Chris?
He certainly is, Steve, and just here signing autographs and stuff, and nice enough to join us real quick for an interview here. And Steve's staying up in the booth, defending champ, and you had a great day yesterday, a great start to your runs.
It's a good start. You know, we needed to get points, and we got those. This one's going to be a lot harder. We're running from the complete outside again, so. But the weather looks good, water looks good. We're just going to let her fly.
Yeah, it was a little bit bumpy yesterday. I know that's what you said, and everybody said it looked easy. How do you keep that going today? I know the first tee, you're running on the outside.
We just got to race our way in. You know, we have to run very, very hard here, and hopefully we can get to the front. But probably unlikely. A lot of fast boats inside of us. So what we have to do is just do the best we can and try to start working our way and racing our way towards that inside lane again for the final. So just a lot of hard work today.
We've been asking you about this rivalry all week long. This is what the fans want to see. You'll be in the first heat here. It's going to be a tough job overtaking your time. Your lap times were pretty much the same yesterday.
Yeah, but we've been a little better in rough water, and I notice their boat's a little flighty, so we'll see how it pans out when we get to the race course. We'll see how rough the race course gets, but it's hard to pass anybody on the outside here in Seattle because of the rough water. So we'll just see, take a good heavy swing at the bat and see what happens.
I'm sure we'll be watching you all day long, Steve. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks.
Right. That's Dave Villwalk. We'll be back to you, Steve.
All right, Chris, thanks very much. And we have our microphone problem, we believe, fixed with our Mike Fitzsimmons at the start-finish line. So, Mike, when we last chatted, we were talking about how the weather might affect the racing today.
Seattle weather is always unpredictable, Steve, and as a result, you never know what you're going to get. Now, as you heard Rebecca say, we're not going to really see a whole lot of wind today. We're not going to see a whole lot of chop on the water caused by the wind. But she did say this: toward the afternoon, the wind will pick up out of the southwest. Now, you don't need a lot of wind in that south turn, in turn number one, to cause the water to start chopping up and frothing up and leaving you rollers 3 and 4 feet with big troughs in between. And when everybody goes charging into that corner, that is a dangerous turn. There's no getting around it. And if you just get a 10 or 12 mile an hour wind from the start line to the first turn, what happens is that right sponson, especially at high speed as they're charging down in that first lap, the right sponson likes to lift. And when it lifts, if it catches just enough wind and catches a roller at the same time, you'll lift up above the horizon and there's no getting it back.
So in these conditions, Mike, who do you think would work best in this?
Well, it depends, Angela. There's a lot of different things that these crews are doing, and this is a team sport. The driver himself is out there, or herself, as the case may be, attempting to master these waters in the condition they find them. But the reality is that the crews are trying to set it up with the best possible boat ride. The key is get above it. Don't hit it and allow it to launch you away. Get above it to where you bounce over the top of it. They'll be working on that, but the conditions, obviously, this is unlike motor racing with wheels. The track changes virtually every lap around, so we have to set the boat up in such a way that it's going to be able to handle almost anything we could expect in a 3-lap or 5-lap final, as the case may be.
And welcome to the Albert Lee Cup at Seafair. It is time to go racing with unlimited heat. 1A, here is the rundown. The Oh Boy Alberto, Steve David on the inside, 2 straight driving championships. Greg Hopp has been fast in the Lay's kettle cooked boat. Miss Albert Lee, Brian Perkins, the Miss Red Dot, Kip Brown.
And we've got a lot of traffic.
Brian Perkins.
Heat 1A. And the clouds have broken just a bit, but the drizzle continues here on Lake Washington as we get set to race. And Chip Hanauer, as we look at this list, Steve David has it pretty much the way he wants it, doesn't he?
Not really. It's a big change here. Yesterday, Greg Hopp in the Lay's kettle corn really stepped up his speed. Steve David thought as long as he didn't draw Vilwalk, he was fine. But now all of a sudden, he's got his hands full of Greg Hopp.
Pat O'Day, the big boats are back on the waters of Lake Washington.
Willard Alberta just came by our start-finish line tower, passing out Pepperoni, and Steve David wants to pass everybody in his Alberto. He wants that national championship, but he better look out because Greg Hopp and Kit Brown are both looking quick. Mike Fitzsimmons will call it for us.
Here they come around the top of the course now, Patrick, as they are already established in terms of their lane. Steve David in the Alberto in lane 1. The Lay's boat with Greg Hopp in lane 2, Albert Lee in lane 3, the Red Dot in 4 with Kip Brown, the Julians with Cal Phipps, and the Peters and May in the 6th lane. They come to the line. Looks like we're going to have a picture-perfect start here. Steve David nails it as they come down to the first turn here with plenty of speed. This was one of the better starts we've seen this year, Chip, and we've got a lot of traffic.
Brian Perkins right there in the lane 3. He really's got a lot of boat speed. I'm really amazed. That's the fastest I've seen that boat ever go.
And they get them sorted out of the exit pin down there, and down the back chute, Steve David has got the lead, but it looks like the real battle is between Brian Perkins and Greg Hopp, who are side by side in second place and within the rooster tail of the Oh Boy Alberto. Now, as you know, Steve David has a slim lead of 370 points in national high points, and he did not pick Dave Vilwalk in this heat, so he has a chance to go up on him depending upon what luck befalls Vilwalk in the next heat, and he's trying to make sure he gets away clean with this one. At the end of lap number 1, Steve David in the Oh Boy Alberto has got a very strong lead, and Greg Hopp is now being challenged by Kip Brown in the 17 boat.
And Dave turned the first lap at 142 142.051.
142.051 for the first lap. Stephen David out in front in the Oh Boy Alberto and in the points chase, but right behind him and still putting on the pressure is Greg Hopp, and then Brian Perkins in the Albert Lee is behind those two in third place. And we've sorted this out now to a certain extent, but we still have some pressure on the outside from Kip Brown, who has now passed the Albert Lee going into the turn number two, the North Turner Bridge turn, in a real hurry up there. Out of the corner comes the Oh Boy Alberto. We got several of them bunched up there, and our finish order in the second lap is going to be the Oh Boy Alberto out front. Still Greg Hopp in the Lay's Kettle Cooked is right in their second place now, just now passing. It'll be Kip Brown driving the red dot as he comes by and on. Now there's a disabled U100 boat. The Kettle, the Lay's Kettle looks like it got cooked, and unfortunately he falls back to fourth place now as Stephen David running some rough water up the back chute has everything his way. Kip Brown has established second place, and Chip, it looks like Kip Brown has got a lot of boat speed out there.
Very surprising the boat speed he's shown. And I also want to talk about that start. In the years past, we've talked about boats fighting for lanes. These boats were assigned lanes by their qualifying speed. Back to you, Mike.
Yes, they were. And coming down to pick up 400 points in a first place in Heat 1A, it's going to be just the way he had planned it. Steve David in the Oh Boy Alberto, about 3 rooster tails ahead of his nearest competition, and that's because his earlier nearest competition broke just on this front straightaway. Across the line now comes Kip Brown. Very, very impressive run for Kip Brown in the red dot. Albert Lee comes across the line in third place with Brian Perkins, and finally getting the beams back again is the U100 Lay's Kettle Cooked. And fourth place overall, well, we got a little bit of a battle going, but it looks as though it's going to be John Zimmerman in the Peterson May, followed by the 13 boat Miss Jillian's with Cal Phipps, who's had some mechanical difficulties out here getting qualified and getting in this race.
Lee?
All right, Steve, this turned into a race for second place pretty quickly. Did you mean this to be a statement race?
We're really just trying to make the Alberto run better each time, and we tried a different combination. It worked really well in this heat. The goal is to win this thing come time for the final, so we have to progress every heat, but certainly we'll take those 400 points and move on down the road.
How about conditions? That's been the question of the day. We've had rain, we've had wind. Has it been affecting you guys while you're out there?
Seattle's always rough, so it's what you expect and you set up for it, so the conditions were perfect, and the Alberto loves this rough water.
Yeah. This is a great start then for you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Steve, back to you.
A wider smile brightens more than just your teeth. Colgate Optic White's unique hydrogen peroxide technology is engineered to remove...
All right, Lee, and here are now the official results. Again, Oh Boy Alberto and Steve David on top. The speed showed by the red dot. They pick up a second place. Lay's Kettle. And we continue unlimited racing with Heat 1B. Here is your lineup. The fastest boat on the water this weekend, Dave Villwock, starts on the inside. Then Jeff Bernard in the FormulaBoats.com. J. Michael Kelly in the Graham Trucking Boat. Mark Evans is back in the race along with Mike Webster and Ken Muscatel in the U25 Car Pros. Could not get that boat going. It's unlimited Heat 1B. Cool cloud, a little chop on the water, but Chip Hanauer, the race here in this particular heat may be between Jeff Bernard and J. Michael Kelly.
This Formula Boat team is running 3 boats, and Jeff Bernard wants nothing more than to beat his teammate, J. Michael Kelly. I think we're going to really focus on that second place race between those teammates.
Pat, Dave Villwock, 10-time winner here in Seattle, wants to win it again.
And he's got crosshairs on his back. These guys want to get him. There's 3 red boats. One has a bird on the tail. The other has a football-sized Graham Trucking sign. Helping you separate those boats. Mike Fitzsimmons, it's your call.
3 boats from Indiana in there with the Spirit of Cutter, and that's, of course, the 96 boat. There are 3 former Seafair winners here on these waters in this competition, and Dave Villwock is one of them. So is Mark Evans, 2 of them in this heat. as they come around. Of course, the starting positions are predicated on the qualifying speeds, and that's what put the 96 boat inside the Spirit of Cutter. And Dave Villwock has got a good head of steam coming down here to the line. We're going to have a perfect start here. Leading them across the line, though, was J. Michael Kelly in the Graham Trucking. He had an absolutely picture-perfect start in the 3-lane as they come across. Both he and Jeff Bernard, along with Dave Villwock, go rocketing through that first turn. Chip, Dave Villwock has phenomenal speed.
He does, but watch these two boats here. Those are the two teammates we talked about. Jeff Bernard out-qualified him by a little bit, so he's got the inside lane, but watch how fast J. Michael Kelly's working on that outside.
Now you're seeing the Spirit of Cutter up the back chute, and the boat seems to have a lot of air underneath it, and if you think that's the case, you're exactly right. That's the way Dave Villwock likes to drive this boat. He likes to fly it. The least amount of wet surface equals the least amount of drag, and the faster the boat will go. And there's no question about it, but this one is the class of the fleet when it comes to speed. In second place among the Reds, it is Jeff Bernard. And in the 5-boat, formulaboats.com, followed by J. Michael Kelly in the Graham Trucking in that order. And their teammate Mark Evans is in 4th place right now in the Washington Truck Dispatch, followed by the Matrix System boat. That's Mike Webster out of Pennsylvania.
Boy, J. Michael Kelly right there made a crossover move. He went over Jeff Bernard's weight to get inside of him. And if Jeff Bernard doesn't know he's there, his radio team should tell him that. J. Michael Kelly still's got a chance there on that inside to get him, and I think this is going to be a good boat race.
Oh, and he got a little loose there. We saw an awful lot of the underside of that race boat for J. Michael Kelly for a moment there as he took that inside lane. He's fighting a little slop from the wake of his teammate. Meanwhile, staying out in front of it all and attempting to get 400 points and stay even with Stephen David as far as the point spread is concerned in national points. That is the Spirit of Cutter, and that is Dave Villwock coming across the line. First place, second place, it's Jeff Bernard. Third place now by Rooster Tail and a half. It is the Graham Trucking and J. Michael Kelly. And in 4th place, still way back, of a half a straightaway away from, or a half course, I should say, away from the lead boat. That would be Mark Evans.
It'd be interesting to know if Jeff Bernard did not pull in a lane in that floating bridge turn, because Kelly was coming up on the inside, and suddenly Kelly had to go through his rooster tail. I think he changed lanes, but we'll see what the referees say.
It was a little tight up there, but one thing's for sure, if you are not having to entertain a crowd, you can do things your own way, and that's exactly what Dave Villwock is about to demonstrate as he comes down to eye the checkered flag and win Heat 1B of the Albert Lee Cup at Seafair. And the Spirit of Cutter across the line with the flag. Second place, Jeff Bernard. He comes across the line about 3 rooster tails back of the Spirit of Cutter, and in 3rd place, about by the same distance, it would be the Graham Trucking.
And Villwock turned a quick lap in that first time around, 145.834.
We have a penalty on Bernard, just as you observed there, Mr. O'Day. It appears as though he did not give a sufficient overlap, and that means his teammate picks up second place. That would be the Graham Trucking. So, and this, by the way, Chip, is the kind of racing that we've been seeing from J. Michael Kelly. Put on the pressure, make sure you make somebody make a mistake, but make sure you're safe in the process. That's just what he did.
I'm a big J. Michael Kelly fan. Remember, we pointed out that looked like it could happen. J. Michael Kelly did the crossover. Maybe we can show it to you again. Did the crossover, got inside of him, made up ground. Jeff Bernard panicked and cut him off, and it didn't cost him dearly.
And you know, those two guys don't exactly love each other. They're on the same team, but they're not too sure they're fair and sharing the props and this and that and the other thing. And this will just heat the controversy up a little bit.
Pat, let me show you what made this happen. You're going to see this boat right here in 3rd place. That's J. Michael Kelly do a crossover. He's going to cross his wake. He sees a lane in there. Now he hopes he has good water, and he's going to try and run up inside of Jeff Bernard. It looks like along. Now we go up to the corner, the final corner, and right here you'll see Jeff Bernard, where now he's supposed to leave him a lane, and he doesn't do it. He goes right to the buoy, and then he leaves no place for J. Michael Kelly to go. That's an infraction.
Dave Villwock, and we waited most of the day to get it done, but pretty easy for you there.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot tougher than it looked. It was real rough. The thing was trying to swap ends up in the other end. I was in a couple of troughs, but managed to get it lit and get it to the starting line. It looks like J. Michael or somebody had a tough time up here. Probably it's some big ruts out there that were causing some problems.
All right, the only drawback, you didn't get Steve David in the draw, so maybe next time.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. It just pays our money and takes our chances.
All right, Steve, back to you.
So here now the official results. Unlimited Heat 1B. And Dave Villwock, of course, taking the win. Graham Trucking, followed by Washington Truck Dispatch, Matrix, Formula Boats, and the Car Pros boat.
The conditions for today as well. That was a real issue yesterday. The rain, the wind, it seems it's all back today. He says he's not concerned about it, that actually the choppy water is what the Oberto likes to run in. So he's actually excited to get out there and really give it a spin. Back to you.
All right, Lee, who will be following things in the pits along with our Chris Francis down there. The change, the lanes, the lane assignments today, as opposed to yesterday, easy going, Chip, yesterday. Today, not so easy.
Well, first, let's go back to years past where they fought for the lanes. Now they're assigned lanes in the first heat by qualifying speed. But this heat is very special because they're reversing the order of finish from the second heat. So now Dave Villwock is on the far outside, and just to his inside is Steve David and Oberto. This is the race that Steve David in the Oberto has to beat Dave Villwock to have any chance of getting that inside lane for the final.
Mike Fitzsimmons, out the start-finish line. You'll be calling the race. What do you see out of that competition, those two guys, where they have to come from outside in to try to win this heat?
Well, Chip pretty well stated it. If Steve David doesn't do it here, he isn't going to do it. It is as simple as that. He has to control this heat if it's at all possible to do so. He's going to have a faster boat. And, I mean, this boat has been 5 miles an hour faster all week long out here in qualifying and in its initial heats yesterday. The Spirit of Cutter is a faster boat, and he's going to take a larger race course, and he has to be able to drive around the Oh Boy Oberto before he can shorten the size of the race course that he's going to run. And, Pat, that simply means that Steve David either has it or he doesn't.
Well, clouds and all, this is setting up to be one of the great heats of racing of the year. Yes, the Qatar is a little bit faster than Steve David and the Oberto, but Steve's got the inside lane. This is such a critical heat for him as you look at the entire season as one big picture.
And don't ignore the rest of the traffic. They could play a role in especially into the first turn as to how this one shapes up.
J. Michael Kelly, your selection will be in the pack there somewhere.
Well, as a matter of fact, let's head down to the pits right now and talk about at least one of those other boats that may be in the mix. Anything can happen, as we know, out here on Hydro Sunday. Chris Francis is near the Graham Trucking pits. Chris.
Yes, Steve, I have actually all three boats, Spirit of Cutter here and the U-17 and also J. Michael Kelly's boat as well, and they're all getting ready here down in the pits. And I spoke with Dave Villwock. Obviously, we spoke with him an hour ago on the air, but I spoke with him after that and just asked him what it's going to be like to run on the outside. And he said, I know this race course. I'm going to be good in rough water, which he's going to see. And, yeah, it's just a matter of time if he can keep his boat where he wants it on the outside before he gets by Steve David. So he's not really worried about being on the outside because, of course, he's got that faster boat, faster than almost anybody out here. But keep an eye on Kip Brown because he was very fast yesterday in some of the heats, and so he is maybe a dark horse in this one. But they look like they're all ready to go here, and especially Dave Villwock on that outside.
Now, a driver profile presented by 76. We're on the driver's side.
At the controls of the U-100 is powerboat racing veteran Greg Hopp. This Snohomish native has raced boats since he was only 9 years old. Most recently, Hopp became the driver for the Leland Unlimited team after the legendary Chip Hanauer retired in the year 1999. Hopp captured Rookie of the Year honors that season, but he is still seeking his first career victory on the Unlimited circuit. Behind the wheel of an Unlimited Light, however, has been a totally different story. His 20 victories on the Unlimited Light circuit make him the winningest driver in the history of that class.
Driver Profile is presented by 76. Bring your 76 gas receipt to their tent at Seafair and get a free gift.
Hey, what do you say we go racing? Heat 2A for the Unlimited boats here on Lake Washington. Here are your headlines. This is where the battle is joined. It begins now. The Oberto and the Cutter boats, they're on the water. What about the Graham Trucking boat? Fast and hungry. Let's see how they measure up. And the Red Dot boat, they've got some speed today. Can they compete? We'll see. It's the Unlimited Heats 2A. And here are your Muckleshoot starting lineups for this Heat 2A. The Miss Albert Lee, Peters and May, Red Dot, Graham Trucking, and there to the outside, the Oak Boy Alberto, and then the fastest boat on the course, the Spirit of Cutter. Speaking of the course, as we take a look at the waters, again, a gray, kind of lumpy day out there, but the boats are out. They're getting set. Chilly 66, but the wind's not kicking up too badly as we head off to check out the drivers at the controls of the fastest boats on the water. And here you go, the Albert Lee Perkins boat, the U-21 with Brian Perkins at the controls, Mike.
And Brian's going to have to show something here. He only got 169 points in competition yesterday. He needs to step it up because his performance was not strong.
In the Peters and May boat, John Zimmerman, the rookie, and Chip, the adrenaline's kind of going a little bit in him, I would think.
It is, but he's really got a short sword here. This boat was leased from Fred Leland to replace the boat that was damaged in Detroit when J.W. Myers hit the wall. He doesn't really stand much of a chance here.
Nate Brown's team with his nephew Kip Brown at the controls, the Miss Red Dot. Mike, they showed some speed yesterday. We didn't know they had.
They did, and he'll be starting from the middle of the pack also, so he will be a factor on this start. Watch where that yellow, red, and blue boat goes.
J. Michael Kelly, Mike Fitzsimmons, not so dark horse, Chip.
You know, not so dark horse, especially from yesterday. I think this is one of the most gifted drivers I've ever seen. He pulled a great move yesterday to give him a second place. He's one to watch not only in this heat, but all day long.
I don't know how much more we can say about the Alberto team and Steve David, other than that they're the defending driving champs. And, Mike, they need to get points because they're competing head-to-head with Cutter.
Absolutely. The monkey's on this boat's back and Steve David's back. He is basically taking a hit on 17 on the blackjack table.
Lee Stoll, the sausage boat, is out on the water. Steve David, a confident driver.
He's not expecting that big lead that he had in the heat yesterday. The crew is saying that he's expecting this to be a tight, packed race. Not only what he does right, but also watching out for the other drivers and, of course, keeping his eye on the Spirit of Cutter.
Welcome to the Game Changer Bat Lab. Game Changers player-led and player-tested.
And that's the boat just to his outside, the defending champ here at Seafair, Dave Villwock.
You know, there's a national championship at stake. Dave Villwock is behind because of some mistakes he made. He needs to beat Alberto every time he gets them so he can win that national championship that will come to a conclusion in Cutter.
Chris Francis, the fastest boat on the course.
What lane is that? There's no question that's
Got a confident driver here in Dave Villwock, just like Steve David. And as a matter of fact, I've got a prediction here of 2 laps from one of the crew members here before he overtakes Steve David, guys.
All right, Pat, here they come, the big boys.
Steve David, if he's going to win the national championship again, the place is Lake Washington. The time is now. He needs to win this heat. Mike Fitzsimmons calls him.
As they come to the line, Pat, we've 10 seconds left on the clock, and of course the guys to watch are on the outside, but the fellas in the middle, J. Michael Kelly and Kip Brown, are going to control this start to some extent. We hit the line a little late, but they are at the front end of that fleet as they come through. You're watching them in the middle of your screen, and right now, Dave Villwock is way outside and hanging back, just waiting to see how this lower corner sorts out. Chip?
Mike, if that was either a perfect start or J. Michael Kelly jumped the gun, it is going to be very, very close. If he didn't jump the gun, that was perfect.
And up the back chute now, we have J. Michael Kelly running out front at this point, along with Kip Brown to the outside of him and trying to drive around boats that are not quite as fast, but fast enough to cause a problem. That is Steve David in the Old Boy Alberto, and you're seeing that we've got foggy conditions on the race course at this time. Peters and May, which went down at the first quarter, has gotten restarted. Across the line, Kip Brown will lead them with J. Michael Kelly in second place, and in the outside lane, we've got Steve David in the Old Boy Alberto, and here comes very strong from the far outside, the Spirit of Cutter and Dave Villwock. As they come into the corner, lots of convergence into that turn. But Kip Brown's getting a great boat ride out there in this rough water, and he's running very well inside as they pass by the U-21 boat there, the Albert Lee. Up the back chute now, and let's check out how this continues to sort out. The Albert Lee putting on the pressure from the inside, and Kip Brown, and that's the view from the Albert Lee as we look right out the window and see exactly what Brian Perkins is seeing as they come out of this corner. Lots of traffic. Mike, Kip Brown has gotten a penalty, is going to have to go another time around, and that leaves the lead now at this point to the Graham Trucking boat.
Mike, I think the big story here is now what's going on up front, which is a great boat race. But Dave Villwock is back in, 4th or 5th place. This means a lot with regard to the national championship and lane pick as we go through the day today.
He's in physical 4th place, but of course the boat that leads the green boat, green and white, Pat O'Day, is actually penalized. He's not really the leader. But here we have J. Michael Kelly taking advantage of the situation from the middle of the race course. He's going to get a checkered flag if he can hold it, but right now Stephen David is putting the pressure on him.
The quickest lap so far has been 139. That was the first time around. In these waters, that's flying.
Mike, J. Michael Kelly, as we've been touting all weekend long, has driven great. He did a great move yesterday. That was a perfect start, and look what it results in.
And what it results in is 400 points because J. Michael Kelly and the Graham Trucking takes the checkered flag in this heat 2A. And Stephen David will take 2nd place, but as you mentioned earlier on, the Spirit of Cutter just didn't seem to have the ability to catch these guys from the outside. Whether that was deliberate, I doubt it was, because the points that have to be given up because of that outcome are simply not going to be acceptable.
Now, we know Kip Brown was penalized a lot, but are you sure that the Albert Lee appliance was also Brian Perkins?
I'm not sure that Brian Perkins. Kip was the only one that
Brian would be your winner if he wasn't, if he didn't jump the gun, and the Graham Trucking with J. Michael Kelly would be 2nd.
Thank you for sorting that out, and you're correct about that. Physically, that was the case. I confused those two boats. It was Kip who was in the trouble, but not Brian, and Brian physically finished across the line first.
I tell you, nobody could have predicted this heat. This was an amazing heat, and it's going to have ramifications not only for today, because now lanes are assigned by point totals. It's going to have big ramifications for the national title. So this one heat, as Pat said, going into it, might be the most important heat of the season.
Chris Francis is getting into position. He'll have Brian Perkins here in just a moment, the pilot of the Albert Lee boat. But in the meantime, let's talk to Steve David. He's with our Lee Stoll.
All right, Steve, I know you're pulling the cords out of your ears right now, so we'll try and make this easy for you. You put the thumbs up as you pulled in. Was that a good race for you, considering how far back you ended up?
Well, we need to stay ahead of Dave Villwock for our national points championship race, so that was really, have Jimmy check that here, that was really the purpose of that heat, was to beat him in points, and we did. So it increases our national championship lead, and then we'll worry about winning the race at the final.
So at this race, it really wasn't looking at the final of it, you were looking where Cutter was.
Exactly, because he and I are really in the points race at this point, and we had to beat him, we did that. Guys on the inside had a great race, there was no chance we were going to get them from way out where we were.
Tight packed turns right there, pretty close racing.
Oh, exciting stuff.
Is that how you like it?
Oh, I love it, and Oberto just eats that stuff up. The boat's set up for it.
All right, let's toss it to Chris Francis, who has the winner.
All right, thanks, Lee. A lot of hugs and very big smiles, and I'm with the winner here. And boy, one of your guys just came up and said you ran with the big dogs, and I was a little upset there.
Yeah, a little bit. We had position on them there at that in being in lane 1. And the Albert Lee team has done an amazing job setting up this boat. We've had a hard time earlier this weekend with handling and stuff like that, but we tried a bunch of things this morning and it worked really well, and we really needed that first place points right there to get in the final, so that was huge.
And there was some question of a penalty there. You didn't know what was going on, all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden they erupted here with the cheers and the clapping.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was legal on the start, and I know that a few boats were really close, and they said a couple boats jumped. I don't know if there were any other penalties other than that, but just an amazing win here for the Albert Lee team, and glad to do it for Albert.
A little Perkins weekend going on here, I guess.
So far, so good, yeah.
All right, guys, back to you in the booth.
Chris Francis is with J. Michael Kelly. Let's check with him right now.
I am Steve, and boy, what a start. And I know you couldn't get the Albert Lee there at the end, but that was a quick start, and you got to run pretty good.
Oh, man, what a great race. Keep Oberto and Qatar boat behind us. That just shows how much everybody else has come through, and as of right now, I think anybody can win this race.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it jumbles it up here. I mean, the guys in the booth are talking about, wow, what a final we could have. What are your thoughts on how your boat can fit in all that mix there?
Oh, I mean, my ride out there showed me that if I can get an inside lane, I can beat anybody. These Graham Trucking guys have given me an absolutely
amazing boat, and we just continue to get faster and faster. So, I don't know how the points work out right now, but if the further we get inside, the better shot we're going to have in that final.
All right, J-Muck, a lot of racing to go. Good luck to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, guys, back to you.
Well, we know the young man can drive. He won at Doha last year, and here are your unofficial results with the Miss Albert. We're ready to go racing again. Heat 2B for the Unlimiteds here on Lake Washington. Here are the headlines for this one. Greg Hopp in the U100. He had a fast Heat 1. Can he do it again in Heat 2B? We'll see. The 3 Formula boats are racing today, led by young Mr. Bernard. Let's see how the red boats do. And the Flying Doctor, Ken Muscatel. Does he use tape and glue and paper clips to hold together that boat? The U-25 will find out. These are the stories in Heat 2B. Taking a look at the boats here in Heat 2B for the Unlimiteds, the Miss Jillian's, FormulaBoats.com, Washington Truck Dispatch, Matrix, the Lays, Kettle Cooked, and there's Car Pros on the outside. Ken Muscatel's boat. As we look out at the water again, a little bit lumpier than a few moments ago, and now those clouds are really starting to drop down low to the deck. We'll keep an eye on that. Winds, however, staying at about 4 miles an hour. Let's check in on the drivers who will be controlling these fast boats in not such great conditions. The top of the list, the Miss Jillian's, Cal Phipps leading the way, Mike.
Cal's had a disappointing weekend. His boat has not been performing well. He got a couple of fast laps out of it, but mostly he's had mechanical gremlins. Hopefully, they're gone and he's ready to go.
The U5 FormulaBoat.com with Jeff Bernard at the controls. Just yesterday penalized, Chip.
Last year, Jeff Bernard was kind of the first string driver for the Formula Boats team. J. Michael Kelly has kind of stepped into that first string. Jeff Bernard is not happy about it. He needs to make a statement here.
Chris Francis in the pits. Are they ready to make that statement, Chris?
I think they are. They are still actually in awe of what just happened in that last heat. They are buoyed, no pun intended, by the confidence they have from what J. Michael Kelly did. So they'll be inside, and Jeff Bernard, you mentioned the penalty in the last heat. Hopefully it doesn't happen to him this time and puts on a good show here.
The Truck Dispatch, the U57, a former champion here in Seattle, Mark Evans.
It sure is nice to see Mark Evans back. His name, the Evans family name, figures so much into Seafair history, and to have Mark back in the saddle after a serious back injury and having come back to Unlimited Hydroplane Racing. Same old personality, just bubbling over all the time, no matter what he drives.
Matrix System boat hasn't shown a whole lot, but Mike Webster, a young driver, the Rookie of the Year a year ago, Chip.
This is a total family operation. Father and son put this boat together. Mike is just trying to demonstrate his ability as a driver. They know they really can't do much damage with this boat.
I'm pulling for the Lay's Kettle Cook because, Mike, they just sent up some potato chips up here to the booth.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good choice anyway, though. At Detroit, this boat was very fast. At Tri-Cities, not so fast. Here, seems to have found the speed again. He's coming from the outside, though, on the start, so this will be interesting to see if he hooks up with the Formula Boats out of that first corner.
Dr. Ken Muscatel tore that boat up a couple of weeks ago in Tri-Cities, but Chip, he's got it back together again.
Ken Muscatel was the guy that really put the Cutter deal together. He desperately wants to get back, but that damage that he incurred in Tri-Cities just got fixed. This is his first heat of the Albert Lee Cup. I don't think he's going to make it to Cutter no matter what he does here.
Lee, they've been working hard on that boat all morning.
Slept in 48. Some of the crew telling me they hadn't slept in 48 hours trying to put this boat back together. The duct tape was still going on it as they were pulling away from the dock. So to say that Ken and the crew are anxious for this heat is an understatement.
And with a welcome to all the listeners on 950 KJR and worldwide at KairoTV.com. Pat O'Day, the floor is yours.
Well, when the helicopter shot comes up for you watching on television, look at the number 2 lane, which is Jeff Bernard, probably the quickest boat out there. But out in the number 5 lane will be Greg Hopp in the Lay's Kettle Cooker, the U100. Those are the 2 quickest ones, and they should be able to stage quite a battle here in Heat 2A or 2B.
They come around with 20 seconds left on the clock. Cal Phipps will have the inside lane, but not the advantage as far as horsepower is concerned. The advantage clearly from lane 2 is going to be Jeff Bernard in the Formula boats, but let's watch the 100 coming from the 5 lane on the outside, and he's going to come on strong as well. We're a little early at the line, 1 second. We're perhaps okay. If so, Jeff Bernard was right there when he had to be. A little bit of a fudge there. It looks like we may be okay as far as the start is concerned into the first corner. It is Jeff Bernard taking control of things from the 2 lane as anticipated. Cal Phipps got sideways a little bit, is having trouble controlling his boat from the inside lane there. They're running through some troughs, and out front goes Jeff Bernard. But here on the outside, far outside, here comes the Lay's Kettle Cooked with Greg Hopp starting to put the pressure on from the outside as they head up into the upper corner now, the Floating Bridge turn, and even Cal Phipps is starting to see some boat speed from the inside lane. So we've got some pretty good action up there coming out of that corner now and shutting the door. But that would be Jeff Bernard in the FormulaBoat.com, and he's got a rooster tail lead, but Greg Hopp is still trying to catch up with him. And Chip, I think Greg has a little bit more boat speed, but he's got a lot of real estate to make up.
Another example of a great start. I think he just equaled J. Michael Kelly's great start, and look at the benefit that's paying off. And I think with the start he made and the performance he's got on the boat, I think he's going to keep Greg Hopp behind him.
It looks as though at least at this point he's going to be able to do that, but Hopp has made up a little bit of ground coming out of that corner. Very rough down in the lower corner now as Jeff Bernard continues to fly his boat down the back chute and takes the entrance pin now just about to the entrance pin of the north corner. Right now on the outside, it is Greg Hopp putting a lot more pressure on him and laying a little more horsepower through the corner here, trying to catch up. He has pulled it within the rooster tail. Coming out of that corner now, he still has a wider course and clean water to run in, but Greg Hopp is not really catching him. He's just staying with him at this point. End of lap number 2, Jeff Bernard has your lead. Now here comes Greg. He's coming on strong now. He's coming on strong from the outside. He's drawing to within about a rooster tail now, about a quarter of a rooster tail. He's pulling, as you can see, from the outside to the apex of the corner, and let's see if he's got the boat speed coming out. He's got good water to run in.
Mike, he left a lot of room. I don't understand why he went so wide. I think if he would have stayed closer to him, closer to the inside, he could have won this race, but he went awfully wide on that corner, and I think it's going to cost him.
He's still putting the pressure on, though, as they come back into that north turn number 2. He's now alongside. He noses out ahead at this point, but he's going to have a drag race on his hands to try to get Jeff Bernard at the start-finish line. Question is, who has the most horsepower? He's pulled virtually side by side. He's coming on strong. It looks like Greg Hopp may have it. It does look as though he has it. He wins, takes the checkered flag just by a boat length there at the end over Jeff Bernard.
Where did Fred Leland get this boat going so fast all of a sudden? They've been struggling not only this year, but they've been struggling for the last few years. But all of a sudden, this weekend, they're fast.
Boy, was that a finish. The number 3 of the boat is Cal Phipps. The number 4 is Ken Muscatel in the Car Pro. Mark Evans will be number 5, and number 6 will be the Matrix out of Pennsylvania.
And that last lap for the U100, the Lay's Kettle Cooked, was 141 miles an hour in rough water. That's fast.
And on the outside.
And on the outside to boot. Yes, that's fast. Well, there was some dandy racing, and that shows you, of course, Chip, just exactly what's happening with the so-called Tier 2 boats, which are becoming quite a story here.
Well, Mike and Pat, I don't know about you, but this day is starting to unfold a lot differently than I thought it would. I thought really Oberto and the Cutter boat were just simply going to walk away with it. But if we can see that start from the buoy again, I think we can really show what a start does for you. And, you know, both these drivers for Formula, Jeff Bernard and J. Michael Kelly, I think they're upping each other's game because they both want to be the first string driver on that team. And I think they're pushing each other to really great driving performances.
Well, that was certainly a great driving performance.
From air show action back to the water, it's time for Heat 3A of the Unlimited Hydroplanes at Seafair, and here are your headlines. How hot's the kettle? Greg Hopp has that baby flying. What is he going to do here in Heat 3A? A third-place finish is not what the Oberto team likes, but they stayed ahead of the Cutter boat, and that's all Steve David wants to do. And finally, a family reunion of sorts, the Red Dot, with Kip Brown at the controls and Uncle Nate running the show. How will they fare? It's Unlimited Heat 3A.
Heat 3A of the Albert Lee Cup at Seafair is brought to you by Samsung Appliance, a leader in innovative energy-efficient appliances, and is presented for Seafair by the Tulalip Resort Casino. Experience exceptional luxury and service, plus gaming excitement at the Northwest's finest resort casino.
And here now your Muckleshoot lineups for this Heat 3A. The Oh Boy Alberto draws the inside lane here. There is Greg Hopp next to him, the Lay's Kettle Cooked. Washington Truck Dispatch, the Miss Red Dot, Kip Brown, Matrix Systems, and then Car Pros with Dr. Ken Muscatel on the outside. And as we take a look with a little extra time to chat about the drivers and the boats and the conditions, again, our ceiling appears to be going up ever so slightly and ever so slowly. The temperatures aren't, though. Still about 66 degrees and a little more breeze blowing here along the shores of Lake Washington. As we get set to run this race, let's check in now with the drivers, those men who will be controlling these boats. And here is inside the Lay's Kettle boat with Greg Hopp at the controls. And Greg Hopp, a first-place finish in his second heat.
And he'll be starting from the 2-lane, and he loves the 2-lane on Lake Washington. So this will be an optimum position for him and a good opportunity to really put it to the Oh Boy Alberto. Will be just to his left on the inside. I think Greg Hopp is up to it.
Chris Francis has been in the Hopp pits for the last little bit. How are they feeling down there, Chris?
They're feeling really good. You're right, Steve. Actually, I didn't get a chance to talk about it before the first heat because we really weren't focused on Greg Hopp, but they've changed engines a couple of times. They've gone back and forth all weekend here and changed gearboxes before today's heats, so they've obviously dialed in on something that they really like. But I did talk to Greg just a few moments before he got in the boat about passing the 01 Alberto and getting around him, and he said, that's going to be a tall order, but if they can do that, look out in the final. And one more note, they also learned something from their great run Detroit earlier in the year. They said, it's a bigger course, but we learned how to run fast on the straightaways, and if you saw in that last heat, they really did make up some ground and carried it into the corner.
All right, good job, Chris. Let's check out the next boat inside. That's the Miss Red Dot. In Heat 1A, a second-place finish yesterday, but a disappointing 6th here today. Chip?
If there's a sleeper in this field, I think this is it. This boat, I don't think has ever looked as fast as it has this weekend. Kip Brown is quiet, he's unassuming, but I think he's getting ready now to make his mark in this heat.
Polar opposite of his uncle Nate Brown, by the way, who's not quiet and unassuming in any way, shape, or form. The next boat is the sausage boat, the Oh Boy Alberto, a third-place finish along with a first. And I got to say that, Mike, I think Steve David has got to be very happy about his positioning and this kind of draw.
No question, he's coming out of the lane 1 position in this heat. He's got a very fast Lay's Kettle Cooked out on the outside of him on his right, and the Red Dot will be in the 4 lane. Those are the class of this particular fleet, but the Oh Boy Alberto handles well on the inside here. Steve David should, if he gets a good start, be able to handle this field.
And Lee Stoll, you've been in the pits, the Oh Boy Alberto team, as professional as any on the waters.
And they are, and Steve, as you mentioned, he is very happy about that inside pull. The crew changed out the gearbox a little bit even after the last race, so they're still tinkering with a couple of things, just doing what they do best, needing to go faster and push harder and pull in as many points as they can to set up for that final.
Mark Evans, it seems like it was just yesterday, went upside down and won the 1997 Seafair Classic here. This time he's driving a boat, Chip, that maybe not as fast, not as competitive as the one he was in a few years ago.
And speaking of quiet and unassuming, Mark Evans.
Yes.
Just kidding, folks. He's trying to get this boat to Cutter. They just tell him to go out there and get as many points as he can. But Mark's a racer. I wouldn't be surprised if he saw an opening if he tried to do something with it.
The U-22 Matrix boat with Mike Webster at the controls. Michael, this young man still looking to try to dial in a little more speed.
This is a former Cooper boat, and Cooper's not here with his Allison boat, as you know, because he is protesting the issues with the officials of the sport right at the moment and dropped out of the circuit after Detroit. But this was a former Allison-powered boat and became a turbine. And the Matrix people have done a pristine job. They're down on a little equipment, get a little help from some pretty good folks, however, who know what they're doing, including John Walters. So we'll see what transpires here.
Ken Muscatel, a broken boat, and I'm afraid a broken spirit right now.
And we welcome in all the listeners on 950 KJR, as well as worldwide, KairoTV.com. Patrick.
Well, a lot of people on the shore rooting for the Oberto, and the boat's from owned by the citizens of Madison, Indiana, driven by Steve David from Florida, but it's sponsored by that great Seattle firm, the Oberto Sausage Company, and we'll see Dave can find that pepperoni power from lane 1.
Greg Hopp in lane number 2 is giving Steve David in lane number 1 a lane, and that's all. There's a 0 out on the clock. Looks like a fair start. Kip Brown gets another very quick start from the middle of the field. The two leaders are back a little bit, and Chip, they come down to you.
Kip Brown's way out there in lane 4. He had a great start, but I don't think he's got enough boat. Hopefully he can salvage maybe a second or a third out of this, but it's going to be tough.
Steve David takes the lead now as they come down the back chute on lap number 1, first of 3 times around. He's going to try to run away from everybody. In second place is Kip Brown, and he is driving well from the outside, but unfortunately there doesn't seem to be the speed this time in the U100. The Lay's kettle cooked that they demonstrated in the previous heat. Steve David is not having a problem with him.
Speaking of cooked, I'm afraid Dave Vilwalk's national championship is starting to look a little cooked because Steve David and the Oberto's gotten every break they want. They beat him one time. They have not drawn him in heat, so it's going to get tough for Dave to win that championship if Oberto keeps having a great day.
Steve David turned the first lap at 140.806 miles an hour.
And this has turned out to be something of a high-speed parade for 1 and 2 at the moment, but the race for 3rd and 4th, and there's Ken Muscatel trying desperately from the outside to get some points toward the possibility of going to Cutter as he senses the problem with respect to the U100 boat to Greg Hopp, and he has passed him on the outside and has taken over 3rd place. Ken Muscatel getting a chance to score some points if he can keep it together. Meanwhile, Steve David has driven himself out of trouble. He demonstrated from the inside lane that he's got superiority here. He has been in the lead for the entire heat thus far, and it looks as though with 1 more lap to go, he's now extended his lead to about 3 boat lengths, Pat.
Well, he's up to 138 miles an hour. The number 2 boat is Kip Brown. He's having a great ride. And number 3 is Ken Muscatel.
Muscatel's boat was all beat up, Chip, before, but he's running pretty good now.
Yeah, I think the problem is with Greg Hopp. Greg Hopp is going slower and slower and slower, and it's too bad because he had such a great day going, but I think he's coasting to a stop, and it's going to be all Oberto. And Kip Brown, it's going to help him in the final.
In the race for 3rd and 4th, or 4th and 5th, rather, we have a pretty good race going there too. The Matrix is working on Mark Evans out there. Mr. Webster trying to take him as well, so he's trying to get a little pride out here as this race continues to unfold. All right, ready to claim the checkered flag. It will be the old boy Oberto, Steve David, at the wheel, and really never headed in this one as he passes the boat that could have given him trouble but didn't. At the start-finish line, the old boy Oberto is your winner. Second place is going to be Kip Brown in the red dot. 3rd place, it's going to be the Car Pros, scoring some points at long last for Ken Muscatel. And in 4th place, well, we're not sure yet, but it looks as though Mark Evans is going to be able to hold on to take 4th place in the Washington.
It is time to decide the champion. The Albert Lee Cup Championship heat here at Seafair, and here are your headlines. For the Oh Boy Oberto team, their game plan has worked so far. 1 more race to go. But standing in the way, the Spirit of Cutter, the U96 team of Dave Vilwalk. And what about that Graham trucking boat? Will they sneak up on everybody? Watch out. The championship for the Albert Lee Cup is right now. And for the final time today, your Muckleshoot lineup card starts with the Oh Boy Oberto team and Steve David on the inside. FormulaBoats.com, then Graham Trucking, Miss Albert Lee Appliance, Spirit of Cutter, Lay's Kettle Cooked and the Miss Peters and May. Just about 4 minutes before we go racing, the boats are out. They're getting set. The sun is peeking through, but the rollers on Lake Washington we've come to know and love are out there as well, as we take a look at the men who will be driving these Thunderboats into this Albert Lee Championship race. And here we go, starting with Steve David, who has had it all his way this weekend for the most part, Mike.
Now comes the real question, though. Can he do it from the inside? Has he got enough horsepower, enough brute boat speed to outrun the Qatar? That's the question.
Lee Stoll, Steve David is about the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet, but he's right now chomping at the bit, isn't he?
Oh, he really is, but you're right. He's ready to get out there, and they're looking for that perfect combo, a perfect start, that inside lane. That should do it for them.
The U5 Formula Boats team with Jeff Bernard at the controls. A second and a third, the best he's done this weekend, Chip.
Jeff Bernard is a great talent. He comes from a long lineage of boat racers. He's extremely aggressive. He reminds me a lot of his stepfather, Terry Troxel. When it comes to the final heat, there's no stopping him.
The Graham Trucking Boat has J. Michael Kelly at the controls. Mike Fitzsimmons, this was your pick for the weekend championship win.
And still is, depending upon how things unfold. Obviously, he'll be in the 3 lane. I think he likes it there. We'll have to determine whether or not he has the right kind of bullet and combination, though, to run with these other guys, because he's going to have to be super fast this time.
Can the overall sponsor of Seafair this year, Albert Lee, can their boat with Brian Perkins at the controls win? He does have a first-place finish in the heats races, Chip.
This week has been up and down for Fort Bryan. He's won a heat. He's been disqualified. He's had lots of problems. What he told me he's going to do in the final heat is just find smooth water and keep the momentum up. It could be enough.
Dave Villwock, you can never count him out, the defending champion here at Seafair, Mike.
He says he's comfortable with that 2-lane. Reminds everybody he's won here plenty of times from there. But he hasn't had to get around a boat as fast as Oberto. Let's see if it happens this time.
Chris Francis, this guy drives angry a little bit sometimes, and he wants to win.
Well, I spoke to his crew chief, Eric Elstrom, just walked by me on the dock here. I said, do you have enough? And he just gave me a determined nod, just one nod. They're very quiet, confident around here.
Going to be some kind of race. Here's the Lay's Kettle Cooked team, U100, the Leland team with Greg Hopp at the controls, Chip.
I think these guys were headed for a great weekend and maybe a chance to win, but they had an engine failure in one of the preliminary heats. That means they're going to be pretty far outside. I don't think they can win from out there.
And finally, Mike, it's tough for a trailer to win, but it's happened before. The Peters and May team with John Zimmerman.
Very lucky to be in this final, but he earned it. Unfortunately, however, now he's outclassed rather significantly.
So those are the boats in the race. We want to welcome in all those listeners on 950 KJR and worldwide on Cairo.com. Welcome to all of you on the web. It is now time to turn it over for this 60th regatta at Seafair to the man who's been to just about all these races, our own Pat O'Day.
Well, if we can look just under the surface of the water, the sockeye salmon are swimming resolutely south to spawn in those sparkling waters of the Cedar River. They look up, 6 screaming propellers ripping the surface of the lake, and they say, what the hell's going on? And we say, welcome home, sockeyes. You've had a long swim out there in the Pacific, but you've made it. You're just in time for the final heat of the Albert Lee Cup at Seafair.
Thank you, Patrick. From the inside, Oh Boy Oberto, Spirit of Cutter, Graham Trucking, Albert Lee, Formula Boats, Lay's Kettle Cooked, and the trailer, the U-37, Peters and May. Here they come to the line. A little bit fast, a little bit early. Could be a bit of a problem. Oh, that was a shaver. Across the line, though, if it was a good start, the Graham Trucking had a perfect start. They come zipping down into that lower corner, and Chip, you've got them.
Graham Trucking with J. Michael Kelly once again shows what a great talent he is as a driver, but look at Oberto. Dave Villwock is going to have to use all the power that boat has, and it looks to me like Oh Boy Oberto might be stretching it out.
Those parallel rollers are tough on all of those boats up the back chute, but the Oh Boy Oberto has got the lead now on the outside. There you see the Spirit of Cutter just leaping over those high rollers at the apex of that corner, trying somehow or other to catch the Oh Boy Oberto. It's going to be a closer race than I thought it would be at the start-finish line, but the Cutter is starting to move up now, and I'd say about 2 boat lengths, Pat, is all that separates them.
144.633 miles an hour in the first lap.
Into the corner, the cutter looks a bit ragged as it comes awfully close to the Oh Boy Oberto.
That really is going to help. They lost a lot of momentum there. This is a race of momentum. These boats weigh 6,000 pounds. If you slow them down, it's hard to get them going again. Dave, I think, made a mistake trying to pinch the Oberto in tight. He hit some bad water, but that boat is so fast, he's right back at him again.
He is indeed right back at him, but this time he is going to be, he's really leaping. He's having to work awfully hard on the outside there, and that water is rough up in the north turn as they come around the corner. The Oh Boy Oberto has a bit more of a lead at the end of the second lap than he did at the end of the first. But here comes Dave Villwock. His bow is as high as it can possibly be without blowing over as they come across the line.
142.848 the second lap. Great speed.
Down in that lower corner, you got him, Chip.
This is going to be really disappointing for Dave. I think he really thought that he had the boat speed to do it from the outside. He may very well have that boat speed, but right now I think he's in big trouble.
And remember, we're going 5 times around, and we've just finished 2.5 of those times, so this is a lot of racing left to go. Right now, Oh Boy Oberto has things going its way. Steve David out front, but once again, up there in that upper corner, carrying a lot of boat speed through that turn. It is Dave Villwock in the spirit of cutter, but he is further behind this time. He has lost ground to the Oh Boy Oberto on this third lap, and Steve David knows it. The radio man telling him this time he's making his charge, but he's coming from greater distance behind. Oberto is still in the lead at the end of 3.
But let's go back to that second heat when Oberto beat Villwock. That gave him the inside lane. That's made all the difference. There's no question that the cutter boat is faster, but Dave just can't get at him to go by him.
On that last lap, the cutter was a mile an hour faster than the Oberto, making up a little bit of space. Oberto at 141 and the cutter at 142.
Steve David has got some terrific speed up that back chute, and it appears that Dave Villwock is doing everything but keeping right side up practically to try to catch him, and it's going to be very, very difficult for him to do it. We're coming down to end lap number 4. Steve David still has the lead, but Dave Villwock is not going to let go, not at all. Here he comes on the outside by about 2/3 of a rooster tail. The Oh Boy Oberto goes across the line one more time around now for the 2 leaders.
143 miles an hour to 140 for Villwock on that one, and this is it.
I tell you what, this is one heck of a boat race. Both of them have got to find smooth water. They're searching for smooth water to keep that propeller hooked up. It's going to be very close, my friends. Very, very close.
Peters and May gets wide to the outside to get out of the way as they come. This time Dave is making his move. This is his last opportunity. He lost the Columbia Cup in this corner. He's going to try to win the Albert Lee Cup in this upper corner on the last time around. And now here we have Steve David out in the lead, and it does not look like there's going to be sufficient time for the Qatar to catch up. He's trying, but it's going to be the Oh Boy Oberto wins the Albert Lee Cup at Seafair.
Holy smokes, what a race that was. Well, I have great admiration for both drivers. You know, that second heat was everything. That gave Steve David that inside lane. That's what won him the race.
Listen to these speeds in the final lap of the race. It was the Oberto at 144.311 and the Spirit of Cutter 144.459. It was just an eyelash between them. What a battle. What a final heat of the Alfred Lee Cup at Seafair.
Absolutely. Everybody was getting loose, but I got to tell you, the Spirit of Cutter was really getting loose. I mean, David had it out on the ragged edge trying to catch the Oberto.
That was a great driving job by Dave Villwock. He did everything he could do. He really pushed that boat. There's nothing more he could do. He swung everything he had at him. It just from the outside, he couldn't do it. I think he made one mistake when he tried to pinch him in there tight. I think it was the first